Hi everyone, welcome to another episode of Trigger Point Yin. My name is Meg and I'll be leading you through your practice. Today we're going to talk about more common tension patterns that you get from seated desk posture. So we're going to go over some chest opening. When your chest gets tight, tends to create tension on the back line. So we're going to work in between the shoulder blades with tension and misalignment there. And then we're going to work on the piriformis in the glutes as well. So piriformis, deep glute muscle, tends to get irritated from sitting a lot, especially if you sit asymmetrically, if you tend to sit heavier on one side or the other, or if you sit on a wallet when you're driving. That's another way to really irritate your piriformis. So we're going to work into that. And if you happen to have sort of deep aching in your glutes or a deep aching in your lower back, especially after sitting or while sitting, that tends to be your piriformis. So we'll work into all of that, but before we get into that, we're going to take some time with our breath. So set up your seat. You can be cross-legged or kneeling or sitting in a chair. Check in with your posture. You can get a little twist, a little bend, checking in with your body before you come to stillness. And then as you do come to stillness, take some open mouth exhales. You can sigh the breath out, open and close your jaw, relaxing in your face. And then when you're ready, settle in, noticing the natural rhythm of your breath. Feeling how the breath moves in your body, how your breath moves in your body, where you can feel it, anywhere it feels stuck. If it feels easy, if it feels good and smooth, feels short and choppy. And we're going to use a cooling breath today. It's Austin summertime now, so it's getting pretty hot out there. So I thought I'd teach a cooling breath. And for this breath cycle, you're going to circle the lips and breathe in like you're breathing in through a straw. You can also circle your tongue like a taco and breathe in through that straw tongue. So either circle lips or circle tongue to breathe in. And then we'll exhale, open mouth exhale, just big open mouth exhale. So exhale all of your air to start. Inhale through your lips for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Pause, holding your breath at the top. More breath in. Sigh it out. Again, inhale, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Pause, hold your breath at the top. More breath in. Pour it out through your mouth. Keep that going on your own, inhaling through your lips. You can keep that going on your own. Again, inhaling through your lips or your circled tongue, pause at the top, more breath in, open mouth exhale. And notice if you have any agenda or expectation for your practice here. Sometimes when we get on our mat, we can feel pretty solemn or serious about our practice, like we have to get something done, right? We dedicate this time to self-care, but because our work life is usually pretty regimented, right? You give a specific amount of time to get a specific thing done. We can bring that into our self-care routine when really this time is just for you to be with yourself. And of course, laying on the lacrosse balls, we're going to get into our muscles. We're going to get some physical therapy there. But we can let go of the rigidity around that, the seriousness. Because when we take ourselves too seriously, it tends to A, make us tense up, B, make us really grip onto a very specific outcome. And then if the outcome is similar but equally as good, we may be so fixated on the one thing that we wanted to happen that we miss everything else that was just as good, if not better. And that self-seriousness, right, is ego-driven, trying to preserve our self-image and our self-importance. And really in all realms of being and existing, we can let that go, but especially when we come to our mats. This should be a time to explore, a time to be curious about what comes up for you, a time to enjoy your body. Even if the sensation is at sometimes unpleasant or uncomfortable, seeing how you react to that is an experiment, right? Being with yourself through all of your range of emotion. It should be pretty interesting. All right, take another 2 rounds of breath, just like that. Inhaling through the lips or the tongue, pausing at the top, more breath in, then big open mouth exhale. When you're finished with that second round of breath, you can come back to your natural breath and I'll demo what we're going to do first. So we're not going to need any props for this first thing. We're just going to warm up across the chest a little bit, get some stretch into the pec minor specifically. So pec minor is what can draw the shoulder blades over the top of the shoulder and sort of give that rounded shape. So we're going to work on opening all of that up before we get into a deeper chest stretch and then some trigger points. So give yourself some space on the mat. You're going to stamp your feet down about hip distance apart, and then hands behind you, fingertips can face your seat, and hands are about maybe a hand or 2 hands width behind you. And you can start with soft elbows, then press your hands both down into the mat, and then as if you're trying to slide them towards your butt. Press into the arms, lift your chest, pick your chin up, really extend, squeeze the shoulder blades together, full extension of the arms, and then relax, elbows bent. Again, like that, pressing the hands both down and towards your butt, feeling that engagement, squeezing shoulder blades together, shoulders roll back, front of the throat extends, lift through the sternum, and relax. We'll do that 4 more times. Big inhale. Exhale, relax. 3 more. Remembering to slide the hands forward towards your seat, pressing both down and forward as you lift, expand the chest. All right, last one. Press, press, press. Big extension. Tip the chin up and back. And relax. All right. We're going to open the chest with a wishbone pose. And the arm that you're working on, or the side that you're working on, the elbow is going to be bent to 90 degrees up in line with your shoulder. And then your hand is in line with your elbow. So the hand isn't out to the side. It's not in towards your head. In line with the elbow. So it's good to have a blanket for underneath your head here. Or a pillow, of course. But something to put your head on. And you're going to lay on your belly, right cheek to the mat, and we'll get myself in the frame. There we go. All right, right cheek to the mat, right elbow on the ground. And then option 1, bring both knees over to the left. So I'm laying in a fetal position, head on the blanket, elbow out to the side. And then if you need more than that, an option is to grab your bolster, put it underneath that bottom knee. So now both of my knees are lifted up a little bit more, and that's getting a little deeper into my chest. If you still need more after that, straighten out the right leg and step your left foot behind you. And deep breaths into your chest. Breathing into that pocket right where the arm and the shoulder meet. Breathing underneath the collarbone. Making sure that you're not pressing into that arm, you're not resisting the ground at all, you're letting that soften. Long, slow breath. You can feel your breath move all the way down into your belly, so past the bottom set of ribs. And you may notice that your arm gets tingly or numb here. We're stretching into pec major and pec minor here, but pec minor specifically goes over artery, nerve, so when it's tight and you also stretch it, it's going to compress those and cut off some blood flow and some sensation to your arm, but as soon as you come out of the stretch, all of that will come back. All right, one more deep breath in. Exhale, you can come back onto your belly. And if you need to get some movement there, a little recovery, you're welcome to do so. And then we'll go right into the other side. So, you're going to take your left cheek onto the mat. Left arm out to the left, elbow bent to 90 degrees. And then option 1, bring this over here. Option 1 is to just have your knees out to the side. That might be enough stretch. Option 2, grab your bolster, bring it underneath the bottom knee. That'll roll you over just a little bit more. And I'm already feeling the stretch here. I'm going to go a little bit farther. So I'm going to straighten out my left leg and step my right foot behind me. And then I'm using my right hand here for some support. And notice where you can soften. Make sure you're not holding up your head at all. If you need to roll up your blanket more, get something bigger to put underneath your head in order for your neck to be comfortable, go ahead and do it. Make sure that you're not straining your neck or clenching in your jaw, scrunching in your eyes or your eyebrows. All of that should be soft. Keep breathing into the front of your shoulder, the space across your chest, trying to breathe into the space in between the upper ribs. You can always sigh or sound with your exhale. Anytime that we make sound with our breath on the exhale especially, it can relieve tension. It's a signal to your nervous system that it's all right to relax, that you can let go of something. All right, take another deep breath in. Exhale, roll back onto your belly. And then you can press back into a child's pose. Resting your belly over your thighs, and relaxing your arms out in front of you. Really soften in your shoulders, soften in your neck, maybe rock your forehead or your entire body back and forth, getting some grounding. And roll yourself up to a seat, and I'll demo what we're going to do next. So, we're going to need our lacrosse ball for this next one, and we're going to get the spot right to the inner corner of the collarbone. So if you follow this bone of your collarbone, your clavicle, across the front of your chest, you'll feel a little knob or a little nub where the collarbone sort of has its inner attachment. And that is where your entire arm hooks on. That is the hard point attachment for your entire arm and shoulder. Because your shoulder blade floats on your back. I don't know why that was a demonstration of floating, but your shoulder blade floats on your back, right? It's not attached to the back ribs. So this is where your arm hooks on. So right below that point, right below the inner edge of the collarbone is where you're going to want the lacrosse ball. That's going to be number 1. Number 2, you're going to find your first rib. So underneath your collarbone, there's a space, right? There's a divot. Then you have your first rib. So that's the next lump. And you can feel that first rib. And the first rib comes all the way in to your sternum. So you can feel that first rib. And then right below that first rib, there's another divot. Divot's in between the ribs, right? So right in that divot underneath the first rib, close into the sternum, is the second point that we're going to get. So all you're going to do is come back onto your belly like we were for wishbone pose, but you're going to stay flat on your belly this time. And your arm is going to come straight out to the side. So right beneath that inner corner of the clavicle, I'm going to do my right side, so my right cheek is on my blanket. Arm is straight out from my shoulder, palm on the ground, palm face down. Laying on that lacrosse ball. And that's it. Slow breath. Allowing your full weight to rest on that lacrosse ball or tennis ball. If the lacrosse ball is too hard, because this is a pretty bony area, if it's too hard, you can always use a tennis ball. And getting right underneath the clavicle, there's just a lot of muscles that attach onto the clavicle. The clavicle is a attachment structure for a lot. So, pecs are going to hook on to the clavicle, platysma, SCM. There's just a lot that it supports. So getting into that space underneath the clavicle can relax a lot of those attachments. And as you relax into the sensation, notice if your mind has wandered off or if it's still here, with the sensation, with the experience. Just a reminder that this is time for you to be with you, to be with your experience. This isn't a time to check your phone or deal with emails or multitask really in any way. You can just be with the stillness in your body. And just a reminder that you can always stay longer in any of these postures. If I go through them too quickly and you're still getting therapeutic sensation or you're still working with something, just stay longer, right? Pause the video and come back to it whenever you're done. All right. Now you're going to move that lacrosse ball down. So bypassing the next rib. So again, feeling the collarbone. Great. Then there's a space. Then there's the first rib. And underneath that first rib, there's another space. So right beneath that first rib, really close into the sternum, so towards the midline of your body, that is where you're going to want the lacrosse ball. So again, laying down on that lacrosse ball or tennis ball. It might be tender in between the ribs. Again, a bony area. And you might feel this exactly where the lacrosse ball is. You might be feeling this underneath your shoulder blade. So the ribs, of course, wrap all the way around to the back body. So when we press on the front of the ribs, it can move into the space on the back ribs, move into the back ribs. And whatever muscles are attaching to the back ribs on your back can be affected. Long, slow breaths, letting your arm be heavy, letting your head be heavy. With every breath, allowing your body to get a little heavier, feeling your connection with the mat, with the ground beneath you. Allowing your body to be supported. And I just noticed that I was pressing down through my left elbow, pushing myself off the ground subconsciously, and I just exhaled and noticed that and let that go. All right, one more breath in. Exhale. You can come up off of your lacrosse ball. We're going to stay on the right side, but get into the back line of the body, and then we'll come over to the left side and do that whole thing again. So we're going to get into the levator, upper traps levator. So if you follow your right shoulder blade across the top until you feel it make a corner, just to the inside of that corner is where you're going to have the lacrosse ball. And then after that, we're going to take the lacrosse ball about halfway down the shoulder blade. So here's the bottom point of my shoulder blade, about halfway down the shoulder blade, but bring it in close to the spine. So we're going to get into the paraspinals, erector spinae. So that's going to be the second spot, but we'll start up by the inner upper corner of the shoulder blade. So you can come onto your back, place the lacrosse ball where you want it, hugging it in close to the shoulder blade, the edge of the shoulder blade. And then once you have it where you want it, you can do some movement in your arm. Ooh, that's tight on me right now. And then once you decide where you want your arm to rest, maybe across your body or out to the side, I'm getting a good amount of sensation both across my body and overhead. So once you decide where you want to rest your arm, if that shape is floating off the ground, then grab something to put underneath your arm so your arm is supported. If your arm rests on the ground, great, you don't need to get anything to support it. And then if your feet are planted, try knocking your knees together so you have the least amount of effort in your legs as possible. Again, scan your body, making sure that you're nice and heavy, you are relaxed. Softening in your jaw and your tongue. Noticing where you feel sensation. So maybe just where the lacrosse ball is, but maybe also up the back of your neck, side of your neck. I'm feeling it up in my right temple right now. And that sensation might shift or change, and those are just things to be aware of. And just like you may have felt the pressure from getting in between the ribs or underneath the collarbone in the back of the body, you might feel sensation on the front of your body from pressing on the back ribs. So you might feel this underneath your collarbone, you might feel it in the front of your neck. All right. Take another 3 breaths here. Allowing yourself to be heavy. Maybe if your arm is on a prop, it might be ready to come down to the ground. And when you're done with those 3 breaths, I'm going to move that lacrosse ball down, maybe an inch, inch and a half. So it's about halfway down your shoulder blade, and then move it in towards your spine. So it should be right up next to the vertebrae. And once you get there, you can explore a little bit. You can move that lacrosse ball up or down a little bit. You'll still be in paraspinals, erector spinae, multifidus, and it just depends on where you're holding tension right now. So scoot yourself up, scoot yourself down. If you're not feeling a good amount of sensation, move. If you're feeling too much sensation, move. Make the practice customized to what your body is asking for. And then let your arm fully rest. Let your shoulder relax, let your head relax. And again, not getting too gripped or serious around the practice. Yes, we are getting deep into our muscles, but you're also an adult human laying on the ground. rolling around on a ball. And I think that that can be appreciated, and there can be some humor, or at least some lightness in that. This is the way you're choosing to spend your time, and it is as worthy, if not more worthy, than anything else you could be doing right now. All right, one more full breath cycle. And then you can come off of your lacrosse ball. Maybe check out some movement in your arm, see how it feels. Move your arm across your body, or do some cactus arms, pull your elbows behind you, just checking out range of motion. And then we'll do the other side. So we'll start on the front line of the body again, finding your collarbone. I'm going to actually move this out of the way. There we go. And finding your collarbone, bony collar across the front of your chest, and finding that inner corner, inner point of that, and then just below that is where you're going to have the lacrosse ball. Then the second point will be just below that first rib, close into the sternum. And you can always have a blanket underneath your head. I'm going to skip it this time. So laying on your belly, finding where you want that lacrosse ball, resting your head down, and then arm is out to the side, palm face down. Then check in with that right arm, make sure you're not pressing the ground away, not flexing in the fingers, in the forearm, in the bicep, in the tricep, everything is relaxed. Feeling into sensation and where it is, how it is in your body. And we can't be lighthearted about our free time, right? What we do to relax and take care of ourselves and unwind. It's probably going to be pretty hard to be lighthearted about our relationship and our career and our passions, the things that the outcome to us actually really matters. All right, one more deep breath in here. Big breath out. You can move that lacrosse ball just below that first rib, in close to the sternum. It's a lot of sensation for me. But I'm feeling it actually on the inside of my arm, like almost in just below my armpit. I'm also feeling it almost as a fascial stretch, like a sharp stretch all across my sternum and up in between my collarbones. Make sure your left arm is fully relaxed, the wrist is soft. Maybe open and close your hand and then resettle through those fingers. Let them settle back into their natural curl. Relax in your lower back and your glutes. Make sure you're not clenching there or holding up your legs at all. All right, one more deep breath in. Deep breath out, getting feedback from the mat of your breath. Then come off of your cross ball. And we're going to flip over onto our back. Staying on that left side. And we're going to get into levator first. So reaching over your shoulder, finding that inner upper corner of the shoulder blade. Just to the inside of that is where you're going to want the lacrosse ball. And then you can lay on your back, get some movement in your arm. Breathing into the change in sensation with that movement. You can also check out up towards the ceiling. It can sometimes feel good to plug your arm back into the socket with the arm lifted. And then figure out where you want your arm to rest and if you need any prop underneath that arm. And feet can be planted with knees together, legs can be fully extended, feet together, knees wide. All of those shapes are perfectly fine. Just try and be as relaxed as possible in your lower body, in your whole body. And know that once you get in a posture, you're not a statue. You don't have to be perfectly still. I mean, don't indulge every urge to fidget and adjust and move. There is some stillness here that is valuable. But if you need to adjust your prop to hold up your arm better, do it. If you need to move that lacrosse ball a quarter of an inch in any direction, do it. Get the most out of this practice that you can. You may feel the muscle soften, noticing a change in sensation, a change in range of motion. Your arm might be able to come closer to the ground. So taking out a prop at some point and checking in with sensation as you lower your arm. It can be interesting just seeing how much you release. All right, one more deep breath in. Big breath out. And then you can move that lacrosse ball down about an inch and a half, just to the middle of the shoulder blade and then close in towards the spine. And then just like on the other side, you may have your lacrosse ball a little bit above that, a little bit below that, depending on the sensation that you're experiencing. But getting into anywhere along the paraspinals is going to be good. A lot of us hold a lot of tension around the spine. We can get a bunch of knots all up and down the spine, places where you're sensitive, where it feels like when you press on it, it's ticklish. And getting into any of those spots is great, letting those release, letting those break up. And let your eyeballs settle back into the sockets. Let your eyelids get heavy. Make sure your tongue isn't pressing into the roof of your mouth or your teeth. Especially if you're still taking good, full, deep breaths, you might end up getting an adjustment or a pop in your spine or in an attachment to a rib. That's totally fine. Our skeleton pops and cracks and adjusts, and your breath is definitely powerful enough to make those adjustments. So if that happens, especially if it's a really big pop that feels like it really moved something significantly in your skeleton, lay flat for a couple of breaths. You can take the lacrosse ball out and just lay flat, anatomical position, making sure your spine is straight. Arms can be down by your sides with your palms facing up. And after a couple of breaths, then come back to the trigger point that you were working on. Just letting your skeleton relax into good alignment after an adjustment. All right, take one more full breath cycle here. And you can come off of your lacrosse ball, work your way up to a seat, get any movement that feels good, anything that is intuitive to you, and I'll demo what we're going to do next. Now for the piriformis, we'll start with a supported pigeon. So this will stretch into glute medius, glute minimus, piriformis, a lot of the glute, a lot of your butt. So you will need your bolster, words. You'll need your bolster, and it's handy to also have blocks here. So we'll do the right side first. Step your right foot in front of the bolster, and then bring your shin and your knee out in front of the bolster. So it's really your hip, your thigh, your butt that's supported. Get another angle here. So again, knee, shin, ankle all in front of the bolster. And then as you fold forward, you can bring a block underneath your chest and a block underneath your forehead. And I like to get the propping here, even if I could lay all the way down to the ground, because it helps your nervous system to relax into the sensation and relax into the stretch. Instead of just trying to push through it and push through the sensation and force the stretch, get some support first, allow yourself to fully relax here, and then bring the blocks down to a lower level. And then eventually, if you don't need the blocks at all, you can take the blocks out completely. And then making sure that your left leg is long behind you, so your foot isn't sickled out to the side, and that can be supported by a blanket. If you need a blanket underneath your knee or underneath your ankle, if those bones or structures are tender at all, make sure you get the support that you need. I'm going to stay up on the blocks for mine. Oh, and then if you need more than this, if you're not getting quite as much stretch as you want to get, take your left arm, feed it underneath your right armpit, shoulder comes all the way to the ground, doing a thread the needle in your pigeon, and that'll get you some more stretch. So soften in your face, soften in your mouth. You can even open and close your mouth here. Relax your jaw, relax your lips. Stick out your tongue, horse flutter your lips, anything that you can do to make sure your face is relaxed. Because a lot of times when we stretch into our hips, big stabilizing structure, it shows up in our face as scowling at the posture, or gritting our teeth against the posture. So check in with that, try and let it go. Then make sure you're not pressing down with either of your legs. All of that is fully relaxed. And if this is not enough propping, you can stack your blocks. Making sure that you are supported. It'd be good to have another block underneath my forehead here. But yes, use support as much as you need it. Because if you're not relaxing, if you're not able to breathe through the sensation, then you're just stressing yourself out, and that is not helping. And having your forearms on something is pretty good, but we just worked on our back, and now you're straining the muscles in between the shoulder blade, and you're holding up your head, straining your neck. So the more you can let all of that go, rather than using your arms and your strength in your back to hold you up, the better. So finding some lightheartedness with your self-perception and with your pursuits as well, whether it is your, relaxation pursuits, right? There's no best yogi, there's no best relaxer, there's no prize for, being the most able to breathe and sit still. So there's no need to try and be that person. You can just be you in your relaxation practice, whatever that looks like. And the same goes for your work and your relationships and your creative pursuits. And the more you are passionate about something, the more you care about the outcome, the harder it can be to be all right with multiple outcomes, first of all, and not hold yourself to a really rigid and serious standard. But to be a professional at something really requires the lightheartedness, really requires the humor. Because it requires risk to be really good at something, to be really committed to something. Because when you're really committed to something, you're going to try all the angles, and some of them aren't going to work out. Some of them are going to be failures. And to come back emotionally from that failure, you have to be able to laugh at it. You have to be able to go easy on yourself and learn from whatever you did, right? Not just blindly going forth without taking note of what didn't work. But not holding yourself as so precious that you think that the mundane parts of the work are below you. You think the sort of grunt work of whatever you're after is below you. Not taking yourself so seriously that one failure makes you feel like you are a failure, right? Because those things do not equate. All right, when you're ready, you can come back up onto your hands. Come off of your bolster, set it aside, and then you can extend that leg behind you, tuck your toes, press into your hands, maybe even float the other knee off the mat. Really get a stretch in the back of your leg. Then place your knee back down, maybe a little cow pose. Stretch the chest forward again like that. Round back, press the right heel down, back to the earth. Shake it out however else feels good. And then we'll get into our trigger point on that side. So just need a lacrosse ball. If you want a blanket or something underneath your head to make yourself more comfortable, that is welcome. But we're going to get into piriformis. So piriformis, right about in the middle of your butt cheek, and it's going to move from the interior of the sacrum, so sacrum, bottom of the spine, right? And then it's going to move across your butt cheek and hook into the greater trochanter of your femur. So just a little bit above perfect center of your butt cheek is where this muscle is. And we're going to get both the attachment into the sacrum and then the middle of the muscle body. So we're going to get two different points. So what that will look like is coming onto your back. It is nice to have your bolster available, and you'll see in just a moment. So coming onto your back, picking your hips up, so feet are planted, I pick my hips up, and then finding that edge of the sacrum about in line with the middle of my butt cheek, and then that is where the lacrosse ball will go. Settle your hips onto that, and then you can keep your feet planted, or you can rock one knee, the right knee, out to the side. And if you take that option, it can feel a little better to place your knee on a bolster or a pillow. And let the full weight of your hips relax. Other options here, you can put a blanket underneath your left butt cheek so it's supported and your hips won't flop over to the left, and then fully extend your left leg also. But right knee is going to stay bent. So right knee is either bent and flopped out to the side, or both feet can be planted. You might feel this as an ache deep in your glute. You might feel like you're creating pressure in your sacrum, so the actual bone of your sacrum might feel a little achy or like there's pressure there. You might feel it up in your SI joints or all the way up into your lower back. Yeah. And then as we get out into the body of the piriformis, that's when you might feel it down the back of your leg, like an aching down your hamstring. Sometimes people feel it all the way into the bottom of their foot. Let your hips fully settle. And see if you can enjoy just being in your body, being still, taking time for yourself. All right, so you can take another couple of breaths here. And when you're ready, roll that lacrosse ball out into the middle of the butt cheek. Well, it's just above, slightly above middle, right into the muscle body of your piriformis. And leg shape, same scenario. So either both feet planted, maybe a blanket or just your hand underneath your other butt cheek, and the left leg could fully extend. Or right knee flops out to the side, maybe landing on a bolster or some other prop. And this is the one where you might feel it down the back of your leg. The piriformis can cause sciatica or pseudo-sciatica, some of the same sensation as sciatic nerve problems. Make sure that you still are breathing, that it is slow and intentional. You can use that breath to come back into your body, to anchor yourself here in this moment, especially if you find that your mind is wandering off into work or to-do list or any of that that is outside of the realm of self-care. All right, one more breath in here. Big breath out. You can take that lacrosse ball out from underneath your glute and then pull your knee into your chest. You can extend the left leg. Give your right knee a little rock across the body, maybe taking it out to the side like a half happy baby. Right knee towards left shoulder, right knee towards right shoulder. All right, and then let that go. Shake it out once the leg is fully long. And we'll set up for the other side of pigeon. Grab your bolster and your blocks. Step your left foot in front of your bolster. Right leg is long behind you. Left shin, ankle, knee all in front of the bolster. As even weight as possible between your hips. And then fold forward over blocks or some other prop. Allowing your shoulders to relax, your head to relax. Check in right away with your mouth, your jaw, eyes, brows, forehead. And I think it's easier, of course it's easier to find humor in overwhelming sensation when it's good. When something is so relaxing that it is funny that you feel that relaxed. I don't know if you ever have that experience. I certainly have. But after a really good massage, or if you've ever done a float, a sensory deprivation float session, and you're so relaxed that it's comical how good your body feels. Or when you're with someone who they're not even really doing anything that's that funny, but everything is funny, just because the pleasure of being with that person is overwhelming to the point of giddiness. It's easy to find humor and laughter and lightheartedness in those moments. But the effort is to find that same humor and lightheartedness in our moments of being overwhelmed by frustration or anger or disappointment. And it doesn't mean that I'm not asking you to laugh every time something goes wrong. It doesn't mean you have to actually be, rolling on the ground laughing. But to be light and gentle and joyfully compassionate with yourself. Because you are out there living life, and that is just a part of it. All of the failure and the frustration and the moments of anger and the moments of overwhelm, that is as much a part of it as the moments of giddiness and joy and pleasure. All right, 3 more rounds of breath, slow and unhurried. Feeling your lungs fill all the way up to the top, feeling it as a stretch in your rib cage and then fully emptying out. And when you're finished with those 3 rounds of breath, come off of your props. We'll shake out that leg so you can come to all fours, left toes tucked behind you, hands underneath your shoulders, press the heel back, press into your hands around your spine, press the heel down, and then come back down to the mat, chest can lift, little cow pose, and again, press into the hands, press the heel back, and come back down, shake out your leg, down any crackles and pops. I just had a little pop. And then come onto our back for the other side of piriformis. So again, close in towards your sacrum, so triangular-ish bone at the bottom of your spine. About halfway up your butt cheek, just a little bit higher than halfway up your butt cheek, right against your sacrum. That is where you're going to want the lacrosse ball. Coming onto your back, lifting your hips up, placing the lacrosse ball where you want it, and then feet can stay planted. You can grab a blanket and place a corner of it underneath the right hip if you want a little more stability in between your hips. And that way, right leg can straighten out a little bit easier without you tipping over to the right. And then if you want to open that left knee out to the side, Maybe landing it on a bolster, maybe landing it on the ground. Sighing out any tension, allowing yourself to make sounds with your exhales. I think breath sounds should be much more normalized. They do feel so good and they are so relaxing for our nervous system and settling. And whenever people ask you what's wrong. People ask me what's wrong a lot because I make breath sounds a lot. And nothing's wrong. It's not just a sign of annoyance to sigh. It just is a way to feel good. And I think that should be normal. All right. You can move that lacrosse ball out to the left, so out into the muscle body. And like I said, the muscle goes all the way into the greater trochanter of the femur. So if it's a little left of the very center of your butt cheek, you're still going to be in piriformis. So let it be an exploration. Be curious about sensation. Figure out where you want that lacrosse ball to be, and then either flop your knee out to the side, knee can point up towards the ceiling, set yourself up however your legs work best. Whenever you're in belly up shapes like this, it can be nice to rest your hands, one on your ribs, one on your belly, and get that feedback of the rise and fall of ribs and belly of your breath. So breathing out into your hands, feeling that expansion and deflation. All right, take another breath or two here. Take your time coming off of your lacrosse ball, set it aside. Then right leg will extend, left knee pulls in. And get some movement wagging your knee back and forth, so left knee towards right shoulder, left knee out towards the left shoulder. You can keep moving it back and forth. All right, And then while we're here, it's like a happy baby. So pull both knees in. You can either keep hands on the knees, rock yourself right and left, or if you want to walk your hands up to the outsides of your feet, press down through your lower back, pull your knees towards the outsides of your shoulders. Keep the arms plugged back into the sockets, so shoulders touching down to the mat. Again, you can rock yourself right and left, kick into one leg, kick into the other. Then release your feet, give yourself a squeeze. And plant your feet down on the mat. Pick your hips up and slide your bolster underneath your butt. Make sure it's underneath your butt, not your lower back. Then fully extend your legs. Let your palms rest face up. Walk your shoulder blades together on your back. Let your feet flop out to the side. Maybe give a little wiggle to your feet right and left, making sure that that connection of femur to hip socket is as relaxed as possible. Open and close your mouth. Relax your jaw. Stick out your tongue. Then soften your eyes. Shavasana. Final resting pose. We'll move through a brief body scan here. Make sure that you are breathing. It doesn't have to be any particular breath rhythm. Just breathing naturally, feeling the breath come in and out. And draw your attention down to the soles of your feet, letting that skin relax, maybe wiggling your toes and then letting them come back to their natural curl. Softening the skin up the tops of your feet and all the way up your shins to your knees. Feeling your kneecaps relax on top of your legs, softening your calves, relaxing the backs of your knees and the full length of your hamstrings. Allowing your quads to lay heavy over the bone and your hips to rest heavy on your bolster. Feeling your glutes soften. Releasing any tension there. Allowing your pelvis to get heavy, the two halves of your pelvis to open up away from each other. Softening in your belly, breathing all the way in between the hip bones. Filling up from top to bottom like a wave with every breath. And relax your sacrum across your lower back, allowing the lower back to soften, the vertebrae to spill out of the hips, down towards the mat, keeping a nice curve in the spine all the way up. Relax the intercostal muscles, the muscles in between the ribs, feeling that rib cage expand, deflate. Soften the skin across your chest and relax your collarbones, allowing them to rest broad across the chest's horizon. Let your arms be heavy, shoulders way down into the mat. Relax your neck, allowing the back of the neck to be long, the throat to soften, softening the back of your tongue, resting the tongue in your bottom palate. And separate your teeth and part your lips, relaxing around the corners of your mouth. Soften in your cheeks and around your eyes, letting your eyeballs settle back into the sockets, the eyelids be heavy. Smooth out your brows, your forehead. Relax the muscles around your ears, temples, and scalp. And you can stay here and rest as long as you like. If you are ready to move on with your day, take a full body stretch, extending your arms overhead, feeling length from fingertips to toes. And walk your feet back onto the mat. Slide the bolster out from underneath your butt. And once your butt comes down to the mat, wash your knees right and left, a little reset of the back. And roll yourself up to a seat. And hold your hands in Pushpapatu mudra once you arise. So the pinky edges of the hands are together like you're cupping a handful of flowers mudra. In our practice, remind us to hold ourselves lightly, to come to both our joys and our sorrows, our wins and our failures with humor, with lightheartedness, never taking ourselves too seriously. Deep breath in together. Big breath out. Thank you for choosing to take some time in self-care, for coming to your mat to work with your body and your mind, and being a part of this greater yoga community. Namaste. Thanks for watching, and until next time, I hope you can let something go.